Libya.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank the distinguished gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Kucinich, for his tremendous leadership on this issue. There is growing bipartisan support for this amendment. It's an amendment that gives us the opportunity to stop this unconstitutional war in Libya. The United States has been at war against Libya for nearly 4 months. We have dropped bombs on Libyan buildings. We have flown sorties over Libyan airspace. It has been reported that we've even targeted Gaddafi himself. We are at war. The Constitution vests Congress with the exclusive power to declare war. The President has not attempted to obtain Congress's authorization for the war, and yet at this moment, as we debate on the House floor, the war continues. Instead of following the Constitution and seeking authorization, the President made strained arguments to justify the continued operation. At first, the operation was supposed to be limited, as though that undefined term serves as a constitutional escape clause. My constituents certainly would be surprised if Congress established a limited religion, or subjected them to limited cruel and unusual punishment, or quartered soldiers in their houses, but only for a limited time. After that limited argument ran its course, the President turned to a UN Security Council resolution and an invitation from an organization of Arab states to justify our involvement. Those organizations were not around at the time the Constitution was written. Much less are they listed in its text. The administration now has retreated from its constitutional arguments in public and claims that, at least, the War Powers Resolution does not forbid the strikes because we're not involved in, quote, hostilities against Libya. Imagine that the shoe were on the other foot, that Libya was bombing us. Would we view the Libyan Air Force's bombing of our infrastructure as a hostile act? Of course we would. Last week, a member of the other chamber called the President's arguments, quote, cute. I would use a different term. Embarrassing. It's embarrassing that the administration attempts to hide behind these transparently strained and flimsy arguments, especially when we're dealing with such a grave issue. But you know what would be more embarrassing? If this Congress did nothing. More embarrassing than the President's contortions of the law and disregard for the Constitution would be if Congress, with full knowledge that it was occurring, gave him a pass. In the face of an attack on the Constitution, in the face of an attack on this institutions and our powers as a co-equal branch, we must stand up and say stop. And if we don't, we should be the ones who are embarrassed. The Amash Kucinich Amendment prohibits funds from being used for military force against Libya. To be clear, I believe that Congress doesn't need to do anything to stop the President from ordering force against Libya, because the President has not received authorization. The use of force is already illegal. However, to reinforce our constitutional position, our amendment says that beginning at the start of the fiscal year on October 1, the armed forces may not drop bombs on Libya or otherwise use military force. Unlike the bill we considered the week before last, our amendment does not implicitly authorize any actions against Libya. It simply says force may not be used because the President has not sought, nor has he received authorization for force. Please vote yes on the Amash Kucinich Amendment and defend our constitutional role in war powers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose?